You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 140. Big goals, big fear, big action with Joy Hoover. If you're a business owner or entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I am so looking forward to bringing this episode to you because you're going to get to meet our guest and my dear, dear friend and client, Joy Hoover. As founder and CEO of the Cupcake Girls, partner to her husband of 14 years, and mama of two fierce little ladies, Joy's goal is to empower others through her personal journey of social entrepreneurship. Joy and her family have had the privilege of sharing space, respect, resources, and relationships with folks working in the adult industry and those who have been sex trafficked for nearly 10 years. They are honored to stand in solidarity and link arms with this important and valuable community. As an experienced public speaker and voice for the organization, Joy has been featured in TEDx Women, the LA Times, Vice, Huffington Post, Fox News, and the Leadership Journal. She speaks from personal experiences of healing, growing an organization, and showing up each day with courage, humility, and a deep love for the marginalized communities. Joy's core belief is that every human has an inherent dignity and is worthy of respect. She considers herself a human who gives a shit, which, by the way, is her podcast. You need to go take a listen. And her goal is to activate others to give a shit too. Now, that was her official bio, but as you will know very shortly, we're jumping into a conversation with a dear friend of mine. And I've got to tell you that I brought her on because she is an exceptional leader, an exceptional business owner, just an exceptional person and friend. And I have really grown in the person that I am because she has come into my life. And I honestly probably could have spoken with her for hours and hours. And in fact, we'll probably have her back on the show for other topics that I think would be of so much value to you. In today's episode, we do talk about a lot of different things, but ultimately, I want you to listen to how she had this vision and this dream. And it was a dream that very few believed in. And in fact, probably against all odds, she made it very possible. And she was completely honest and vulnerable with us through the journey and what type of fear came up and thoughts and beliefs and challenges and how she took big action to push through that. I know that no matter where you're at in your business, whether you're new or you're seasoned, you have a dream and you're wondering if it's at all odds, and you have big fear around that. And whether the fear comes and goes or is kind of constant, I know that you can succeed and do great things even in the face of fear. And I really wanted to bring Joy on here to pull back the curtains on her story so that we can be inspired and learn from her. All right, so thanks for sticking with me on this intro, and the outro is going to sound the same. I am just coming off of the flu, but I did want to make sure that this episode went live and on time to you guys because it is so incredibly valuable. All right, now let's get to the straight talk. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk, Joy. How are you?
Hey, I'm really good. How are you?
Oh my gosh, so good. I am, over the moon excited about this conversation. And honestly, I have an idea of where we want to take the conversation, but this could go anywhere because our history is so vast and so long. And we often talk. And, one of the best things is I often think about being your friend makes me a better person. The conversations we have when we sit down together are everything from being a mom, being a human, what are our beliefs about certain things? Where have we been challenged? What lessons did we learn? Like, it is a rapid fire reflection and gratefulness and learning from each other. So
I know we can barely breathe after we talk. So hopefully we can slow it down for the audience.
Yes. Okay. That's it. We do need to slow it down because when you and I jam, I think we don't even finish our sentences.
Right.
We're talking so fast.
I wouldn't doubt it.
All right. Awesome. So Joy, why don't you share with our listeners? I'm blessed to know you and your history and your story, but why don't you share with our listeners in your own words about yourself and your story over the last decade that got you to where you're at, and then we'll leapfrog to where you're at today.
All right. Yeah. So I am a 33-year-old hairstylist turned CEO now. Yeah, it's been such a journey. I live in Vegas, been here almost 10 or over 10 years now, and always really been passionate about marginalized communities, folks that maybe felt like they didn't belong in certain parts of society, in certain parts of religion, in certain parts of a job or an experience because of who they are. And so really that's what led us here to Vegas. We came for a weekend in 2009 on vacation.
Who's we?
My husband, that's true. So I've been married for 14 years to my husband, and we have 2 little girls now that are 6 and 3 that are the lights of our life. And we kind of have like a mini leather coat club, me and the girls, lipstick club, leather coat club. But
that's right.
we like to tear the city down, with little lipstick and leather coat. So but yeah, anyway, so my husband and I moved to Vegas January 2nd of 2010, literally to work with folks in the adult industry that needed resources. And it was a very new mission for us. I'd never been in the industry. In fact, I'd never really been into a strip club or any part of the adult industry at that point at 23 years old in my life. And we came from a pretty conservative background. So when we told people we were moving to Vegas within 3 months, selling everything we owned to work, people are like, what? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. Like your family, and culturally, everyone that knew you was like, they've lost it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. So, but we just really, you can't really explain when you feel so much connection to a community or to an issue that you feel like we want to do something about it. Nothing can really stand in your way. And that's kind of what that experience was like for us. So we came out and got right to work. Las Vegas we're known for our adult industry. That's not a kind of little known fact. I feel like you can't really go on the strip of Las Vegas or see billboards without knowing that, our adult industry is vibrant here. Mm-hmm. And our goal was really just to connect with people and to meet them where they're at, which was at the time at the Adult Video Network, which is the largest adult convention in the world, hosted here in Las Vegas every year. And that was in 2010, about a week after we had gotten into Las Vegas. And so I started working with folks. So this was if you're from Vegas, you can hear, this was at the Sands Convention Center. And it was actually, I was in the restroom, the public restroom of that convention center, and my background's hair and makeup. So I had lashes and hairspray and lipstick, and I was in the restroom connecting with people. They were washing their hands, and I'd be like, hey, do you want a lipstick touch up? Do you want hairspray? And they're like, who is this chick? Like, what? It was asking me this in the restroom. But it was literally within seconds that they came over and started to trust me and started sharing something about their day or their week or their month. They were showing me pictures of their kids or talking about a scenario that had happened that day. And so that changed me because I realized that humanizing people, it's not rocket science. It's just seeing them for who they are and offering something that might be helpful, or at least a non-judgmental, trusting space, a safe and inclusive space like we talked about. And so that experience really did change my life. And has really, people ask all the time, well, how did you not quit the last 10 years? I'm like, because when you see the things you see and you experience them for yourself, it's hard to walk away. And we use the quote actually by William Wilberforce, which is, you can walk away, but you can never again say that you did not know. And that was what it was for us. And so basically, the journey continued from there. We started showing up to strip clubs and to legal brothels throughout Nevada with cupcakes, and really just to be able to offer them something. It's kind of like a peace offering. Hey, we're here. We respect you as a human being. Here's a cupcake. If you need anything else, let us know. And so it's building those safe spaces for them.
Right. And, that was unheard of, right? I mean, you're really using a cupcake, and all you're doing that for is to have something to talk to them about so that they see that you see them. And then you're growing a relationship. And I would assume it wasn't always that easy. I'm assuming you had show up and show up and show up and show up and be questioned and your agenda questioned, and just continually showing up with compassion. And you tell us about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was the most challenging because, sometimes you have a dream and you have an idea of like, I want to help, I want to change this, I want to do this. And you have really good intentions, but you're maybe not as educated on stuff as you have to just take risks and try. And what we learned is taking risks and trying sometimes can equal us getting, kicked out, or us getting, throwing the cupcakes in the garbage right in front of us, or getting researched on who the hell are these girls. And so it was us just continuing to say, I understand that this is unique, and we're going to keep showing up and respecting your business. We'll talk with your managers, or a lot of times it was the bouncers, and we would just start building a relationship with the bouncers or with the manager or with the front desk person. And then it was really funny because at one point we actually had a manager, a GM of one of the clubs that didn't want us in there. She came out and she was like, all my staff loves you guys and really wants you in. So she let us in, and she actually put a seat up at the bar, moved patrons, got us a drink, and was like, what the hell are you guys? Tell me more about what this is. Yeah. And it was again, one of those moments where you keep showing up and you keep showing up, again, respecting people, learning as you go, making sure that your experience is not, triggering someone or affecting someone in a negative way, but making sure that you're respectful of people's time and energy, and then really being able to have those opportunities to share.
Right. So share with us how that dream of just wanting to connect, and then it led to cupcakes. When did that dream become so big, so much bigger? What was that like when you realized, I'm not a hairdresser, I'm a CEO with a big dream?
Yeah. I think the needs, all the ways that we've grown have been because we've had the opportunity to sit in really difficult moments with clients, hearing the needs. We had clients start calling us in the middle of the night being like, hey, I just got thrown down my stairs. I'm 18 weeks pregnant. What do you do? And so we showed up at their house. We had clients that were experiencing substance abuse and overdose, and we brought them to our house and put them on our floor and detox them. So what we started seeing, we had a couple clients that were pregnant, dancing in the strip club still because they had no other option. And so we did a baby shower them and helped with their resume and doing different things so that they could change the trajectory of their course with their goals, the goals that they had. And so we started seeing that not only did our clients need resources, where we would literally we'd get a call, we'd sit in a corner of a Starbucks because we didn't have an office then, and they would be sharing these vulnerable places of their life, and then we would create a plan of how to attack those goals. And those are really vulnerable spaces and can be very traumatic for someone to trust you. And so for us, we started realizing, okay, we need safe spaces. And so then after a while, we were able to get a small office space where they could come. But then we realized that they would, get the courage to trust us to come to that space and meet with us. And then we'd go, okay, well, our therapist is over here and our doctor's over here and, our financial advisor's over here, and all these resources and amazing people that were joining us. But everything was really spread out. And so it created barriers for our clients. And a situation happened with one of my favorite clients that had come to us experiencing extreme trauma from early on, very young as a child. And so when she walked into our office to trust us, she could barely walk or even talk because of the trauma that you could see it was weighting her down. And so she started getting therapy. She started going to support groups. Her and her son started getting services a couple times a week with us, actually. And that was really beautiful to see that. But she started talking about other goals that she had. And one of those goals was actually getting a job outside of the industry. And so we were able to help her with that. And her dream was actually to get a job in pastry because that's what she loved to cook. And it was like really therapeutic for her. And so we got her a job in pastry. And she was like, you could see the week she came back in after she'd worked a couple days, it was like night and day for this client. Like she got to talk to her son about what she was doing. Like there wasn't the secrecy that she had to create when she was in the industry. And so anyway, she came back and was talking about it. And the next week she came back and her countenance changed again, but for the negative again. And so I was like, what happened? And she said, well, I got the job today for a catering job we had was to make mac and cheese. And that triggered her to trauma that she had as a child. And she literally had a full PTSD meltdown in this space at the job. And so she just looked at me and she was crying and she goes, how am I supposed to ever do anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so we navigated that with her, but the shame and the pain that she felt from, 5-10 steps forward and now that those steps back really for me was like an experience I'll never forget. And from then on, I I have the document actually, and that was 2011. It was, we need a center and a space for people that can have all including resources in one, and then a job training program if they're going to need that. So while they're healing, they can learn other skills. And it doesn't have to be this, segued, healing experience.
Right. Okay. So back in 2011, you came from solution mode by listening to your clients and listening and coming from a place of wanting to serve, meet them where they're at. And so in 2011, you wrote this document, you created this big dream, and talk to us who Joy was in 2011 that had this big dream. Like, were you someone that was like, yep, no problem, check, I'm getting that done? Or were you like, oh shit, I'm so freaking scared? Like, talk to us about what that looked like for you when you first had that big, big dream.
Yeah, so I was finishing hair school. So I was like 40 some hours of hair school at that time to get my license because I was doing a lot of hair and stuff in Michigan, but not here in Nevada. And so I was all over the place, honestly, all over the place. I was trying to take care of clients at that point. I had 63 clients that I was working with myself. I was trying to build an organization, and I'm not strategy heavy. I'm just like, oh, a problem needs to be fixed. Better go do it. And then, yeah, I didn't have a big team. I had a few volunteers at that point. It was just kind of like me and my husband. And and our office was literally, like I mentioned, either Starbucks or in our condo was one of our offices, or a second room in our condo, basically. So we were not equipped, I would say, at all. And of course, that was also the time in 2011 of November that I decided to start another branch of the Cupcake Girls in Portland, which I had no business doing either. And so, but again, a need arose and I just flew there.
You flew there and just started another branch to your dream, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So for the listeners, let's fast forward and talk about where you're at now, and then we'll go through and pull through what I believe are some major lessons as all of us are business owners and CEOs, whether nonprofit or for profit. We're talking about who we are and the mindsets that it takes to go from this dream on a document and working out of your home in Starbucks to what have you just created, or what are you in the middle, like right smack in the middle of creating now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's also good to talk about our budget at 2011.
Okay, let's do that.
The way we raised money then, we had no grant funding, no big name, anyone that supported us, just a few people that I had wrote letters to like, hey, can you help us financially and can you give monthly or give yearly? I think our budget in 2011 was just over, for the whole year, was just over $30,000, which was actually pretty phenomenal when you think about it. No major donors. I made myself $8,000 that year. That was my salary for the year. And yeah, we had no other staff or anything. All the money was utilized just for, no overhead really, because we didn't even have an office. So now, yes, 2020, I just actually this morning met with the city planning development because as of December 19th, we just signed with an investor on a 7,600 square foot building in the heart of downtown Las Vegas in the Arts District, right off Charleston, East Charleston. And we are in the process of building a holistic resource center, which will include about 14 offices, and we'll have medical and legal and financial advising and mental health and a hair salon and all the resources that our clients need. And all of our current partners will be coming in and creating safe spaces in our space. But not only that, on the other side, because this building is twofold, so we're also going to be building a social enterprise food hall and retail space. And what that means is we'll have about 5 food concepts. We're looking at like a soup and salad and a pizza and a cupcake shop and a few other awesome ideas. And also space where we can sell items, and all of the money that's circulating in there, when people go into that space and spend their money, it will go back to either the Cupcake Girls or another nonprofit in our community that we partner with.
That's a big vision. I'm so proud of you. Okay.
Right.
And so I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have to have this conversation on the podcast, because I remember us navigating through this. So, we mastermind, we get together. And when I say navigating, I mean just like talking it out. And I remember you saying, who am I to be negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal? Like, who am I? And I'm like, who are you? Let me tell you who you are, Mr. Hoover.
We all need friends like Amber in our life.
But that question of who am I believe resonates with so many business owners of who am I to have that dream in my heart? Who am I to go after goals that I have no idea how I'm going to accomplish it? Who am I to do something that I am not educated in or skilled in or quite frankly even experienced in? And at the end of the day, who you are is the person that holds the dream. And I'm going to tell you that as we pull this back with Joy, spoiler alert, the person that holds the dream and can cast that and pull together the people is the person that holds the magic key to me in my book. And so Joy, yeah, you don't have experience negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. And you don't have experience running a huge team, but now you do because you did it, right?
Yep.
So what is your team? So you went through budget. And so what now in comparable, you were just you and your husband when you started out. So like, what does your team look like now that you run with your nonprofit?
Yeah, so we have a successful branch operating in Portland, Oregon, like I mentioned, 2011 that we started. And I was flying back between both cities, running both at the time in 2011. We now have a director, a full-time city director, who's actually been with me for almost 8 years. So she's rallied a lot of years with us. And then we have 2 other staff members. We have a therapist and direct care manager in Portland, as well as a community engagement manager. And they've got just over 70 volunteers that help run day-to-day activities, including volunteers that we call lead positions. So they volunteer like 5 to 10 hours a week to help with a certain skill. And then Vegas, we have same thing, a city director and the therapist and the community engagement manager. I also have an executive assistant, which I brought on this year, which was life-changing. And then a director of Local for All, our holistic resource center and social enterprise business. So we've grown a lot.
And how many volunteers in Las Vegas?
In Vegas, over 100 volunteers. And I think between both cities, the count, and we'll put it in an actual document out in a week that reports all of these numbers, but about 300 partners. So that's people that are giving either completely free or highly discounted services, mental health, medical, legal, taxes, career support, help with children, including even like diapers for kids and just different grants that we're able to provide to actually make sure people are taken care of immediately.
Awesome. Okay. So just a shameless plug. This is my preferred nonprofit that I donate to, but I will be sharing a link to your mission as well as ways to donate, as well as knowing that you are looking to branch out in other communities. Should you be listening to this from anywhere? And if you're interested, you can definitely reach out to Joy's team as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you had said was you have your own executive assistant, totally. Executive assistant. And that was life-changing. That was actually one of the things that we worked on, meaning talked a lot about, was like, let me show you the way. Like, let me show you what's possible and all the things that maybe you shouldn't be doing as the CEO, or that you're not exactly great at doing as the CEO, and how bringing someone along as your executive assistant complements you to run faster. Can you share with our audience some of the beliefs that you had prior to making the decision that you were ready for an executive assistant?
Yeah, so I frequently would say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a hairstylist. That was like pretty much my lingo. And my thought process around that was, I want to make myself available to people. And kind of like my always goal is, anyone can do it, basically. But what I didn't realize is that I was minimizing myself and my, I guess, abilities to try to make myself smaller. And I think we do that a lot as entrepreneurs or people with a dream. It's this imposter syndrome. It's this, make yourself smaller type thing. But yeah, for me, I had to realize that I was the one that was capping our growth, is basically what I realized. And so what I actually did was I actually started meeting with other CEOs of other nonprofits and hearing more about their roles within their organizations, about their salaries, about, just the different experiences that they're able to do and how they delegate and navigate those situations with their team. And those conversations really completely shifted my thinking to, well, I have to make these sacrifices, or I have to be this low, because then, that will help us grow. And really all of that was holding us back completely.
Right.
And I had to shift a lot of that in my brain from that kind of scarcity tendencies to what would it look like with abundance? What would it look like if we actually hired people for real full time? Because even that was, basically 2 years ago, we didn't even have an actual paid full-time staff member at that point. And we're talking about, opening this huge project, this multi-million. I'm like, there's no way we can do this with what we have right now. It's not scalable.
Right. Not scalable because your time was maxed out.
Correct.
Yeah. And with your time that was maxed out, the time that you were spending was on things that were not going to move the needle forward quick enough, fast enough to reach that big goal you had in your heart that you were holding. Right. And
truly also what really exhausted me and almost like soul sucked, right? Like I was doing 95% of the things I hated and wasn't that good at, versus really being able to get out there and do the things I love that could grow us. And that's not even something I think, some of that mindset stuff, it's stuff we talked about in our masterminds of, what would it look like? What would abundance look like if I had nothing was holding me back? What would I want to do? And how can I make that happen sooner?
Yeah. And I'm sure I would have asked something like, well, what lights you up and what do you love doing? Because when you're in there, if you even think back to the story you shared, this all started with you face-to-face, eye-to-eye connection in a bathroom, doing people's makeup and hair. And then you got stuck behind the administrative, the running the business, the day-to-day, the scheduling, the things that were draining you. And yet your biggest impact is face-to-face, seeing the needs of your clients, making relationships, making asks. And that was getting squeezed out. And in my world, as you know, that's how I define your most productive activities are the ones that are going to propel you towards your goal. And yet it was being squeezed out by the things that it's still are required to run a business, just not required by you. And that 100%. Was the turning point.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So another thing that I think is your superpower is casting a big dream, not really having all the how. Like you don't have all the steps, and that you are able to enroll some incredible talent, incredible talent to complement and to move forward in this vision. What would you say to our listeners about how to convey your dream to someone, and how do you enroll either volunteers or your staff or whomever in your life, including your spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're enrolling everyone around you into this dream. So do you have any tips for us on how you do that and why you've found that to be so valuable?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think I've always been someone that can enroll people. I think it's now my perspective on it that's keeping them more passionate and keeping them for longer longevity. And so what I would say is, again, it starts with that abundance over scarcity mindset. So we have a saying that we use in the Cupcake Girls that we don't need you, but we want you. And so it's just this, it's not the normal volunteer or even staff role where it's like, oh my gosh, if we don't get more people, we're not going to be able to do this. Our doors are going to close, right? Even with money, same thing with donors, right? It's who aligns with where we're headed and what skills. What I always ask people is, what skill sets do you have and what passions do you have that are not being utilized right now? What lights you up, right? It's the question that you asked me. And how can we utilize that to change the world? Because to me, that's how I started. If you think about it, I loved doing hair. I loved being creative with hair and makeup. And taking that skill and connecting with humans and creating relationships and helping people feel valued and loved and cared for, to me, there was nothing better than that. And so that's now how we enlist people. We have a chef from the Wynn who helps bake 80 dozen cupcakes in Las Vegas with a team of about 10 volunteers at a kitchen that they rent, Yeah. And we have other people with these a therapist with her master's degree who takes those skills to help lead our direct care programs. And the list goes on. We have 17 teams now that people can be part of. And our goal is, again, to find people that are really excited about that thing.
Yeah. So you're making sure that the people are on the right seat on the bus for like that terminology has been around in business, meaning they're lit up. So it's a win-win-win. It's a win for them. It's a win for the organization, and certainly a win for your clients if everyone's doing something that they're incredibly passionate about. And I could imagine that as you've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, you're not always the one conveying the vision. So you're conveying it to your top line management, and then they're conveying it to their team of volunteers. And so how have you found that to be such a shift in the years since you were literally client to client, and then it was client, then it was volunteers, and then it was management. And so as you've been leveling up as CEO, how have you ensured, give us day-to-day examples. How does Joy convey her vision and dream on a regular basis to her team?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is finding the right people, but then yes, it's spending time with them and connecting with them to see the vision. And also, I'm obsessed with personality tests. So I use Enneagram and Myers-Briggs are the two that we use a lot. And we actually really utilize those systems so that I can understand how my team is motivated, how their brain is working, because I can tell one of my team members that's really big vision and people motivated something, but then telling my other director who is detail and winning motivated, those are two different conversations. And so for me, it's learning who they are and how their brain works. And then two, being able to communicate in a way that it fills them up. But then the third thing is, and this is very important, acknowledging and appreciating them. And I think it feels like, oh yeah, that's not rocket science. But honestly, what I'm finding is I have people that stay with Cupcake Girls or Local for All at probably half the pay that they could make somewhere else because they love the culture, they feel appreciated, and they feel acknowledged and valued. And one of our core values is we invite innovation. So they're actually invited to bring their ideas and that we don't squash them, but we bring them in and go, okay, how could we utilize this amazing idea to help grow us to the next level? And that's really been, I think, a turning point for us.
That's so phenomenal. I mean, I think that all of us business owners can think about, okay, if we're maxed on time and we feel overwhelmed and we're running 100 miles an hour, and maybe we're like 10 steps ahead of our team thinking, right? Like, what's next? What's next? To curate the skill set of slowing it down, meeting your team where they're at, appreciating them, and showing that you really, really value their contribution. And from an abundance standpoint. So just to recap what you said is it's not appreciation like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. Please don't leave me. It's like, you're so amazing. Look at the impact you're making. Isn't this amazing? Right? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when my team, when I see them speak at an event and I'm not speaking and they are, and I'm watching them nail it, my sentence after will be, you didn't need me here. You've got this. You have worked so hard to empower yourself in this, that your passion and the way that you're communicating, right? It's something we call courageous communication. So it's positive, specific feedback to empower them. You know, right now we have a huge event going on in Portland and Vegas, and I'm not there to do, I do most of the media. We have a bunch of media that's coming out to Portland right now. And my director was like, are you good? Are you good? And I was like, you're going to nail it. You've got this. And our teams need to see that. If we're going to bring people onto our vision, we need to let them fully into it and not be afraid. I am never afraid that people are going to outdo me. I hope they do. I hope they outdo me in different things, you know, because we need to be able to grow with them growing and continuing to be empowered in their roles.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the mindset that it took for you to get to where you're at today. Like, what would you say the biggest roadblocks were in your mindset that you've overcome or that you're continually working on overcoming?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I think imposter syndrome is probably one of the biggest things that I struggle with. And also when something goes wrong or you fail, which is going to happen in 10 years, I joke and say I failed more than some people tried.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
But being able to say, okay, I didn't nail that, but I am not wrong, right? So shame is you are wrong. Whereas looking at it from a different perspective of, okay, I didn't nail that, but look at what I learned from it and how can we continue moving forward? And so yeah, shame in not bringing that in when I fail, but imposter syndrome of something that I talk a lot about and tell myself on almost a daily basis is you are strong, you are capable, you are worthy of all good things. I just state that for me because I think that there's this idea that maybe we don't deserve it. And I think like, let's throw out the word even deserving, because deserving is like, you don't measure up, right? You have to like act a certain way to deserve certain things. Who deserves it and who doesn't, right? I don't know. But I'm worthy of it. I'm worthy of growing an organization that is changing the world. I'm worthy of this building, this 7,600 square foot building that I worked towards for 10 years. I'm worthy of sitting in a room with high up CEO executives that are high dollar producing, driving up in their BMW and talking to them about engaging in our work. Or philanthropists that normally give millions to children's charities. I'm worthy of pitching them another option so that they can be involved with us. And so it's just shifting the mindset to realize that no one's really deserving. There's nothing you can do to not or to deserve it. Because there's people that work for 30 years and don't achieve certain things that they want, right?
Right.
But I am worthy. I'm worthy of it.
Oh, that is so good. I thank you so much for sharing that for sure. Okay. So imposter syndrome, I'm worthy, claiming it. So one of my sayings that I love, someone shared with me, I wish I knew exactly where it rooted from, was like new level, new devil. And so it's not like you just like worked on worthiness last year and you like nailed it and no longer need to work on it. What you said was, I do this every single day. You prepare yourself to go up against new opportunities, new challenges, new situations that if you look at the facts and the history, there's no experience in that, but you're now creating that new experience. And one of the things that I have seen being your friend is that you do move fast. Like you move at record freaking speed. And I think a lot of that is your personality. So when we're talking about Enneagram, she's an Enneagram 3. And almost, I like to joke, like like the definition of Enneagram 3
For
Joyous.
sure. Yeah.
She embodies all of that, right?
Uh-huh.
And so you move really, really, really fast, but that doesn't mean that you weren't scared through that. And that's what I want our listeners to hear, is that whatever dream you have in your heart, wherever you're at on the journey, if you're way back at 2011, or you're in the middle of every single day a new meeting brings up a new experience and a new opportunity, is that you're continually working on the mindset of showing up and being courageous and brave through that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call it running scared. I mean, there's probably literally like 50% of what I do that I'm scared. I like think about it and I just don't think too much. And I guess that's one of the good things about not a person like me. I don't see the details. So I always joke and said, if I knew all the details or all that would be expected, I would have tried it in the first place.
Right. And for me, so I'm Enneagram 1 and I'm an extreme planner. So like when I have an idea, I instantly can see the 100 steps that it needs to take.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa. When you have an idea, I'm like, girl, what is she thinking? Like there's 110 things that need to happen. And like they go off in my head like second nature.
Yep.
So you're saying one of your benefits is you don't see those details. You're just running with this vision and pulling together all your executors, really, right? Like you're executing, yes, but would you say that that is something that has helped you run faster, is bringing together people that can help execute on that vision at a fast pace so that your vision gets bigger and bigger and you run faster?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I realized early on, I need executors and I need, and again, a mindset shift of there are people out there that aren't entrepreneurial, that don't have these big, vast dreams, but really want to grab on to something that they get excited about that someone else has dreamed up. And so finding those right people and being unapologetic about letting them know, these are not my skill sets. So let's work together. You are put in this position because I need this skill. It's actually been really helpful for like my Enneagram 6 director, because she's been told a lot of her life that they were looking for a big visionary or whatever in the previous job she had for 13 years. Whereas now I can acknowledge, again, I know where her brain works, so I can acknowledge the good. And that's part of that, again, is finding the right people for the roles and the right passions. And also not being afraid to ask. I mean, I got my Local for All director back in May of 2019, but I was speaking at an entrepreneurial thing, and she was there. She was talking about her passion for nonprofits having ways to make income so that they can be more sustainable. And so she had reached out and asked if we could do coffee like in February. And literally after that coffee, at the end of the meeting, she laughs really hard because she still remembers. I looked at her and I said, "Are you looking for a job?" She's like, "No." And I was like, "Well, I have one I'd like you to consider. Can you look for one? Are you," and literally like she became my director, and she has these skill sets that I was looking for this specific role. So again, it's not being afraid to ask people. You don't want to make decisions for people like, oh, they won't want to do it, or, they'll feel weird about me asking, or it's like we make this shit up in our head that's lies instead of just getting it out there and communicating.
And just asking.
Just asking.
Okay. So one of the things that I share is that you were put in my life to show me how to ask. And in 2019, my word of the year was ask, or going for the ask.
Wow.
Now, my word of the year in 2019 was created by being around you more and more often, right? In the previous years. And then I realized that one of my weaker points in my business was going for the ask, getting in my head, or not seeing the opportunity. You're really good at seeing opportunities and then going in for the ask. So what advice do you have for me or anyone else that's listening that's like, I can't ask for the business, or I can't ask for that speaking opportunity on a stage, or I can't ask for fill in the blank, because you literally ask every single day, right?
Yeah.
Your ask muscle got practiced by saying, "Can you give me money?" And there's not an exchange for service or even value. It was you asked and asked. So what do you attribute to your skill set of being an incredibly good asker?
First of all, you have to know the value of what you're giving someone. So yes, for me, when I'm like, "Hey, will you give $5,000 to this campaign?" What are they getting in return? Well, I believe so much in our clients and in literally the systemic changes we're making through the work that we're doing for human trafficking, for poverty, for equality, and all of these different things that I know the value. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid because I know what kind of change they can create. So you have to be so passionate about your business and your next move that you're excited to ask people because you know the value that it's bringing them, either to their soul, to their legacy, to maybe you're giving them a percentage of your company, whatever it is, you have to be so excited about it. That's one.
So get super, super clear about the value. Whatever that is, be able to clearly articulate the value.
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then number two is you have to psych yourself up by saying, what is literally the worst that's going to happen? They will say no, or they'll ghost you. Those are, that happens all the time too, but they'll say no. And guess what? You're going to go on to the next person and ask them. Like you don't make shit up in your head that they said no because you're bad or your mission's not good or you're a failure, any of that. You don't make that up. You go, that wasn't the right time for them. Let me move on. That's it.
Okay, hold on. That was nuanced, but we need to slow that down. It wasn't the right time for them because I, in version 1.0 of Ask, would have been like, that's a no, that's okay. And my growth is I'm moving on to the next person for a yes. What Joy just said was it's a no, the timing's not right, which means she's coming back and asking again. And I've seen this happen a bazillion times.
You got to get the yes somehow.
Yeah.
So, sometimes in lately it's shifted from no, not right now to no to this question. What can I ask for that is a yes though? And that's another thing that we do with our team. So, you have to just not allow shame to come in because that's really what gets us away from the no's. You have to self-talk yourself into. And it does help as you have, some yeses under your belt. You go, oh, well, that person said yes, so other people might be into it too. Right. So you got to try to hold on to the yeses, hold on to the good so that you can realize that the timing for someone else might be not right, but the next person that you ask, because I've had people that look at me and go, oh my God, you have no idea how perfect the timing is right now.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing it as a gift that you were inserted to ask at the right time and now we're able to give them value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's cultivating those relationships too. And that's an important piece of that. Typically, you don't ask for the big things up front. You try to cultivate and understand people similar to how you're going to understand your staff and what they're at. What's the motivation of the people that are around you to help and find out it might be different for one person as it is someone else.
Right. And we're not just talking like ask for an exchange, like for someone's money for services or for donations. But I mean, you ask for skill sets, you ask for connections and relationship introductions. And that's one of the things that I really admire is that you're always seeing things as an opportunity. And when you said earlier, I'm not exactly strategic, I just bit my lip on that one because you're strategic, no doubt. You're strategic in the big vision and moving pieces together, but you're not strategic. I wouldn't say you're details oriented.
Yeah.
We're not putting you behind doing the admin and the calendaring and all of that type of stuff. But that totally makes sense. And you mentioned that earlier is like, of course I'm not good at that, but let me tell you what I am good at. And let's do more of that. And when you did and you have stepped into that, you've seen exponential growth for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to like people always ask, well, how did you do this? You know what I always say? I didn't quit. I didn't quit. I got a million no's. I did things so wrong. People have left my organization. Like I've had funders leave. I've had volunteers leave. I've had people try to shut down a branch of the Cupcake Girls because they were so mad about how we did something. And these were people we were trying to help. So there's been some major blows, not only professionally, but personally, right? Personally experiencing extreme trauma and loss and still having to show up in the middle of that. I always tell people, when people go, well, how do I start a nonprofit? My first thing is don't.
Okay, why?
Because it's hard. And it's not just I'm going to come up with a cute idea and it's going to be great and I'm going to help all the poor little puppies, right? No, it is not like that. There's so much more to it. And the people that you're serving deserve for you to be so committed to helping them and to getting the best, to being the best that you can to help them, that you never quit. So you have to decide in the beginning, how committed are you? And then you go full force into that on the hardest days and the best days, all in the same.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is true, just to connect the dots. I think that's true for business owners, even if it's not a nonprofit. Like, I can think of, to be really honest, a couple times where I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. And then I went down the path of, okay, if I'm done, then what?
Right.
There was literally then nothing else, because this is my number one passion.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, let me, think this through another way. And it didn't matter. I came full circle to, okay, so I quit for a few hours and now I'm employed again by my own business. But the mindset is like, I don't think anyone's immune to like, I think I hit it. Like, I think I hit, this is incredibly hard and I don't want to do this anymore. And then you do self-care, and maybe you reach out to friends, or you go to your coach, or you go to your people, you rally, and you come back and you fight another day to achieve those big goals.
100%.
Yeah.
We joke and say, like, I joke when I would tell Phil all the time, I'm quitting, I'm done. He'd be like, okay, you can quit for tomorrow. And then you got to get back. Like, so I quit for a day and then I come back. And that's just exactly. There's a quote that says, when you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit. And so that's the biggest thing. And I think about that a lot, because even our chairman of the board, when we signed on this building, right before we made the decision, yes, we're all in, we all voted, he literally texted me and said, you've done a lot up till now, and the Cupcake Girls is growing like so much. You don't have to do this next move. You don't have to get this local fall building. Are you sure? And I was like, 100% yes.
Yeah.
I am not turning back now. And I think that's the sad part for me, is as someone who has experienced extreme highs and lows in 10 years of building a business and a nonprofit and a team, I would have been so sad to not lay on the floor of my building with the keys and experience that moment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And guess what? Guess who wasn't laying on the floor with those keys with me? The people who said no. But guess who was? The people that said yes. Yeah. Those people got the email. Those people got to celebrate the fact that their legacy is being built in this next vision, and they're excited, and they're like, okay, what's next for us, right? Yeah. Because I asked them, and now they get to be part of literally making history with us. Yeah. And that's how you get them excited. Get them excited.
Exactly. So we don't need to go into the details of this, but I do want my listeners that I care about so very much to hear that you've said it a couple of times and you've seeded it, but that you've had immense personal trauma or, deaths and lots of stuff go on in your personal life over this last 10 years. And while that is your story to share, and they can find out about it, I know, on your podcast, which is Humans Who Give a Shit. And that will be linked in the show notes. So she has her own podcast called Humans Who Give a Shit. I just want them to not be telling themselves a story listening to this. Like, oh, well, Joy, like that sounds like she had this vision from 10 years ago and she just woke up every day and she just did the thing. And then she got all these people around her. And so of course it worked out. That's not the whole story. The whole story is that you fought personally and professionally to get to where you're at. And I think it's important because we have listeners that are going through, now this was not your story, but going through divorces, or their parents are sick, or people have died in their lives. And so they say, how do I get up and show up, and how do I do the work? And when my mind space, my head space is just not in the game, right?
Yep.
Do you have any words of wisdom of like how to navigate those times where it's like, everything professionally is on hold because everything personally is just kind of exploded?
Yeah, I would say a few steps to that. One, you are not superhuman. You are not expected to just be okay. When you have a tragedy or something happen in your life that is heavy, you're allowed to grieve. I have the same therapist I've had for over 7 years now that is literally on my schedule, calendared out for the next 3 months, like month by month by month. You absolutely need to have someone in your life that you can discuss. If you are grieving, please get therapy. If you've got to find the right one, but when you find that person, I can tell you my therapist has been instrumental in moving forward.
Yeah.
But then too, you have to look at where you're at and figure out what is feasible right now. Because there were days like when we experienced tragedy and we had new babies and all that stuff that there was days where I was like, I literally can't get out of bed right now. And so I'm going to rework my day so I can show up better tomorrow or next week. And that's okay. Your team will respect you for that because they'll also know that if that happens to them, that you're going to give them the space and the respect that they need to heal. But then there's other things that honestly, you're just going to have to power through and you're going to think, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'll give you like a personal example. We lost a baby like later term and I had to go get surgery. And literally that 2 days after I got surgery, I had to show up for the largest fundraiser we had of the year. And I'm in the hospital with anesthesia and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make this. Like, there's no way I can show up with this level. And guess what? I went home. I rested my body and my mind. I slept as much as I could. And 2 days later, you better bet I showed up. And I showed up, probably not who I am today, right? The excitement of a level or whatever, but my team valued that I showed up. And honestly, for me, I'm like, well, our clients show up through the hard things, so I can too. And I think so you have to find that balance. But I will tell you, don't push when you are literally go, I know myself and I'm not going to do it well. You have to give yourself the space that you need. But then there will be other times where you have to push through and you have to decide what's best for you for that. No one can shame you into, the decision of that. You have to decide, but that's why it's really good to get a therapist or get some people around you that can help navigate that so you can still continue moving forward, even if it's very slow. Right. One step, one breath at a time sometimes, but you can do it.
That's phenomenal advice. So one of the things that I talk to my clients a lot about is, how can you have grace with yourself in this time? Like, and when you said don't let other people shame you, really, I've found more often than not, don't let yourself shame you. Don't say, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And then, or because you know that you can't, that you're mad at yourself. Like, that's wasted energy. I would much, much rather you just realize where you're at, what you need. And then, like you said, like, it's okay. And tomorrow's another day or next week's another day. But when we don't do that, then we spiral. Right. And then tomorrow, there's no way we're ready because we just hated on ourselves today for what we didn't do. And next week doesn't happen because the last several days we've done nothing but shame ourselves and mad at ourselves. And why couldn't we show up? And so I guess the best advice is just recognizing, like you said, where we're at, having grace, love for yourself, like you would your best friend that just went through something similar. What would you tell your best friend and how to navigate this? I would say your own best friend in words. Joy. We could literally go on and on and on and on. And I have reserved myself from going on too many separate different tangents. But you are just so amazing in how you have grown into the business owner and the mom and the wife and the person that you are. I find you incredibly inspiring. And I know that if I do, that my listeners will, and that there were so many nuggets here that we can all apply to just being better people as we pursue our big, big goals. So thank you for that, Joy.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be on here. And I'm so thankful for everything I've learned from you of how to be productive and do more of what I love. What a gift. What a gift you're bringing the world. So thanks for inviting me on. I'd love to connect with anyone who wants to find me. Moving forward.
Why don't you share like your website and then we'll link to everything. So there's definitely ways to volunteer. There's definitely ways to donate wherever you're at to find out more. You can go where would they find all that?
Yeah, so the cupcakegirls.org is our website. You can also find us on Instagram at cupcakegirls.org and at Local for All. That's the big project we're working on with the building. And my personal is Joy E. Hoover. So I talk a lot about entrepreneurial and how to pull all that together. I try to be really vulnerable about where I've come from and where I am now.
And holistic balance. Like, yeah, go follow her personal account for sure too for inspiration. She's a great storyteller. She draws you in. You definitely know what's up in her world, which is also very inspiring.
Better be careful not to tell your readers too much here. They have a high expectation of me.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I have high expectations and you've never failed me. So I think we're in good hands, Joy. Thank you so much. All right. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
What did I tell you? I mean, her story and stories that she has is just, they're epic and so inspiring. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I have absolutely loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. If this is your first time tuning into Productivity Straight Talk, I want you to do two things. One, I want you to subscribe to the podcast so you do not miss another episode. And then I want you to go back through the previous episodes and find one that just resonates with you based on the topic of where you're at right now and a current challenge you're having. I would love for you to go take that episode and get some actionables and get wins in your business right away. Now, if you have been a longtime listener of Productivity Straight Talk, maybe you've listened for 30 episodes or maybe 50 or even more, and you are loving what you hear and you are ready to take this and much more to the next level in your business, I would love to chat with you about working one-on-one. If you're ready to power up your productivity, increase your profits, and definitely decrease your stress, then we need to chat. For more information, head on over to theproductivityspecialist.com/call. And there you can apply to work with me one-on-one, schedule a call with me, and we are just going to chat. We're going to chat about your goals and your challenges. And if I think I'm a fit and I can be of service to you, I'll let you know. And if I can't, I'll certainly let you know that too. But I hope we do get the opportunity to work together. So head on over to theproductivityspecialist.com/call, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. So that's my straight talk for you today. Until next time, have a productive week.